Good morning, everybody. It's me, Teri Hunter. It is Sunday, June 20th, 2021, and we're in the summer solstice today here in the United States, in this hemisphere, and I believe it's the winter solstice for those on the other side of the planet. I can't even just think of what is Eastern and Western. I'm pretty sure we're the Western hemisphere. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. I have a lot I want to talk about. Good morning, Juan. Good morning, Aileen. Good morning, Small Wildflowers. Good morning, Jay Karma. Good to see you all. It is another action-packed week. Good morning, Azza from Dubai. Good morning, Posted Up. Good morning, Gretchen. I kind of laugh because, good morning, Ji Chin. Every week we have these sensationalized headlines about what's going on in the skies. And I don't know if they're really sensationalized as much as this is just such transformational times that when I was doing my meditation, I asked Spirit, we have Jupiter going retrograde today. We have, again, the solstice, which is, the beginning of the season. It's I think we're in the Western Hemisphere. Are we in the Western Hemisphere? I feel like an idiot when I say that. But because what's going on, we have Mercury going direct. We have the Capricorn super full moon on the 24th, and we have Neptune going retrograde on the 25th. So when I was in my meditation and I was talking to Spirit, I felt like I was getting so much, thank you, Northern Hemisphere. Such an idiot. I knew I had it wrong. I just didn't know why. Anyway, okay. Gather myself. I feel silly all of a sudden. Because I want to talk about, this is where I was going with this week. I felt like Spirit was encouraging me to start to just talk about allowing the things I want to experience in my life. Allowing my good health, allowing my happiness, allowing my fulfillment, allowing my connection with others. I started thinking about all the devices and tools that we have, vision boards and affirmations. And it really comes down to our belief system. You can sit there all day long and chant, I am happy, I feel happy. And if you feel like crap underneath it's not really going to be effectual because it's a resistant energy at the end of the day. So as I was thinking about, okay, so how can because this is where I'm going with the astrological dynamics. Jupiter's going retrograde today and will be retrograde, literally goes direct on my birthday in October. So this is very powerful for me. And I thought to myself, what does Jupiter represent? It represents those questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And then we have this Mercury going direct. Why am I here? And how does that apply to my everyday life? How does that apply to, how I think, how I feel, how I operate in my everyday life? Then we have this Capricorn super, super full moon illuminating, the structure of my life, illuminating my current beliefs. And so as I'm looking at all this, and then I go into the Neptune retrograde, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Neptune represents being egoless. And I said to Spirit, well, if that represents being egoless, what does the egoless really mean? Is it being egoless to someone else's version of me? Or is it being egoless in the sense that I don't really care what your version of me is? I'm not going to invest in making you happy because I want to invest in making me happy. So this is what I think has been going on. This is what I think has been going on since Uranus entered Taurus. Way back in December of 2017, I believe that 2020 was the big cocooning, the caterpillar going into the cocoon as it just feels like it's dying, And now here we are in 2021 with the main theme of this year being the Saturn-Uranus square. And we've talked about that a lot. So I want to focus in on the dynamics this week. These slower moving planets, meaning Neptune and Jupiter, giving us an opportunity to really dig into the spiritual dynamics of what do I believe. So what do I believe? Maybe I really believe that my happiness is hard. Maybe I believe that money doesn't come easily. Maybe I believe that I have to work hard in order to achieve. So as these two planets go retrograde, I feel like Spirit was saying, maybe just stop about what you believe and allow in what you want. And in such a way where I don't think it really matters if your belief system is 100% connected to it, as much as you're inviting in the experience for Spirit to move circumstances and dynamics within your world to give you evidence that what you have been working on in your spiritual journey is now coming to fruition. I think that's what's going on. And as I think about the year 2022, I can't help but think of the lyric, the rhythm of 222, and that all that cooperation and all that commingling and connection of the number 2. So that's the commingling of my own happiness. That's where I get to experience and live and walk in a daily way of understanding that the universe is working with me and for me, as long as I'm not just inviting it in, but allowing it in. Now, let me go a little deeper in what I think allowing looks like. Because sometimes allowing is seeing where I have been not, like, for instance, let's say you have a job that you don't particularly like, or a job that feels mundane, or in some ways is no longer inspiring. And you've been saying to the universe, oh my God, I really would like to have something more fulfilling. And then things start getting disruptive in your workplace. And the first place you go to is, oh my God, how am I going to make money? And rather than worrying about that or worrying about the disruption, what if you just said, I know the universe is conspiring to make things more aligned to what I want. So I'm just going to start to allow the experiences in, and rather than taking them at face value, allowing them to unfold in a way that starts to tell me a bigger picture. I think we as humans have knee-jerk reactions. And with Uranus involved, it could very well be that. Uranus is these sort of explosive reactions to things, these knee-jerk things, and based on anxiety. So, we're living under that influence. Uranus was exact to your Saturn just last Monday, the 14th. So they're still having a very intense, strong conversation as we go through, 4 planets having influence on this week. The moon zips around, we know that, but here we have a super moon. That's the very brightest moon. The full moon is a culmination, and maybe that culmination is not necessarily in structure, but in the projected obligation and duty and restriction that Saturn can represent. I really believe that Saturn and Uranus, being the co-rulers of Aquarius, have much deeper meaning than the keywords we use. So Saturn is, represents the father. The Saturn represents the structure, the oppression, the depression. And, I just feel all those things are kind of on the darker side. And I feel like maybe this is the father that, and I've kind of said this before, is seeing a bigger picture of what we can create. A father, Saturn, knowing that we are more powerful than we're demonstrating inside of our small sight line as a human. So Saturn is holding our feet to the fire, saying, be diligent in what you want. Be willing to do the hard work of believing in the unknown. And in doing so, I will have your back. I am your loving father. I will support you. You may feel scared. Think of when you first learned to ride a bike. You know, most depictions of a kid learning to ride their bike, their dad is behind them. And then dad lets go of the bike. And the child feels very uncertain. And only when they can actually get up some speed does the balance really come in. So this week, with Jupiter going retrograde, starting this cycle, and again, I repeated, said it last week. In October, we're going to have Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn all going direct. So these next few months have a real opportunity to transform us. Pluto giving us this resurrection. Jupiter asking the bigger questions of, am I allowing my happiness in? Or have I been on this spiritual journey for such a long time that I don't know how to stop working at it? And by working at it, I'm actually over kneading the dough and making it hard and difficult to rise. I hope I'm making sense here, because this Mercury, and when I think about Mercury, you know, obviously it's one of, if not the quickest planet other than the moon. I feel like that is really digging deeper into the mercurial dynamics. How am I spending my days? How am I driving around? Am I on a hamster wheel? Or am I putting in some focus that is allowing the universe to then bring in those circumstances to support the dynamic of my happiness? We're being activated right now. Our DNA, I believe, is being aligned to a higher version of our own creation. And when we surrender to the dynamic that we are more powerful than we realize, and we start to play to that game and not play alone, but play in cooperation with spirit. That's where I kind of go to this next year. The dynamics that are happening right now are setting up the year 2022. They're laying the manure. You know, they're reseeding the soil so that as we allow for the growth, and growth is never, it's perception. I was going to say it's not easy, but as we allow the perception and the wisdom of breaking through the soil, oh, that must not be easy for that little seedling. You know, everything as it transforms goes through a period of stress and strain. So as we surrender, how is that stress, how is that strain serving me? Because it's probably asking me, am I actually an advocate for my own happiness? Or have I engaged myself in a dynamic of having to work so bloody hard, pardon my language, that I'm actually undermining my own results? That's where I'm going. I'm really kind of excited. I have Pluto squaring my sun, Mars, and my ascendant right now. And I have said to Spirit, what does this really mean for me? You know, am I hitting the skids here? And I actually feel so much more empowered. I feel much more empowered within my own physical body. I have really witnessed certain things and habits that I've had that were based on old vibrations. And as I've shifted the vibration and shifted what I'm ingesting, I watch myself align to the vibration of the happiness that I want to experience. And I realize that I'm experiencing a lot more happiness than my perception has allowed me to, because I'm an Aries rising and I have a 61-year habit of being resentful, of being angry. I'm a Libra sun, which makes me be pissed off that things aren't fair. And then when I realize my focus on the unfair has created more unfairness. And so as I focus in on not what is fair, because that might not be there, focus in on the idea of inviting fairness in, inviting that vibration in. That's where I'm going. Thank you, Go with the Flow. That's so kind of you. I really appreciate your tip. I feel the love. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And I want to offer this to you guys because this is a saying that I have implemented in my life for so long that I actually forgot that I do it. Because as you start to get a momentum in a certain vibration, you don't have to really work so hard at it. So there's a saying called the be, do, have. The be is my being energy. What do I believe? What is my attitude? What is my disposition as I take an action, the do? Because I very much want to encourage you all to really look at what your B is. Because if your B is, I don't want to do this, then take a pause, allowing the universe to open up a dynamic where you get out of it, you're off the hook. And then you start to feel the actual evidence of your alignment to source energy. And in that alignment, then you go into your action and then manifestation starts to happen. And then you don't become scared of the powerful creator you are. Because when we think about the idea of being a co-creator, we have to also own the shit that, the nonsense that we co-create. And sometimes we think that nonsense is just coming on us to punish us for some past life we don't even remember. That's not true. Oftentimes that manure is asking us to look for how it fuels us. Maybe it's, no, I don't need to be in that vibration anymore. I don't need to feel obligated to this dynamic anymore. And in doing so, what if I'm allowing the other side not to be obligated to a dynamic anymore? I really want to, thank you guys. I kind of have a little bit of a sailor's mouth, I got to tell you. And I try to be more, I don't want to offend anybody, but sometimes the last couple of years that word just feels sort of appropriate. And at the same time, I don't want to, I'm going to be kind of cheeky here, okay? Because if we think about what manure represents and we think about what it tells us about our health, and, when we have a Dr. Oz poop, we think, oh, I'm healthy. And then there's those other kind. And I feel like it's time to start to allow yourself to vibrate in a way that allows this stinky dynamic to work for you. I gotta say it. So what I've been thinking the most is I'm allowing in more happiness. And my participation is to look and see, where does that happiness reside right now? And I gotta tell you, Lucky provides, my dog, for those of you that aren't familiar, a lot of happiness. He's a naturally happy boy. He pretty much gets everything he wants because he knows how to engage me in a way that allows me to be his source energy. So I am taking a cue from him and allowing myself to invite in my happiness. And I'm going to use this Jupiter retrograde and the Saturn retrograde and Pluto, of course, to, rather than be afraid of it, I'm done being afraid of all the aspects, because they've been going on throughout history. And we have more control over our lives now than we ever did historically. We have more resources. We have more freedoms. We have more opportunities to turn our obstacles into the things that make our lives run in a way that invites others to as well. So this is where I'm going with this week. I hope you'll join me. I hope you will join me in not thinking of Neptune anymore as asking you to be egoless to somebody else's agenda, but rather what is important to you, and be egoless in their perception of what you want. I would ask you to look at where the structures in your life, the Capricorn full moon, are actually supporting you. Because if for some reason you're reaching my mom used to say, and I'm at that top, what did she say? The end of my rope. And she would go like this. I don't know what that meant. But if you're feeling at the end of your rope, this might be an opportunity, because this super moon in Capricorn is at 11 degrees. And we know what 11s talk about, our thought, our focus. So when your focus is on the obstacles, when your focus is on what isn't working, the disruption, the nonsense, you're adding to it. You're allowing on some level, you're co-creating. So as you go, well, I can't focus on a solution. My brain won't even get there. I can't figure out what the solution is. That's when your brain allows spirit, Neptune, the higher vibration, and Jupiter to work for you. Okay, I'm allowing you to bring in a new experience. I don't know what that is, but it's all about my happiness. And if indeed some disruption comes in, maybe that disruption is actually working towards my happiness. So I won't judge it just yet. I'll just sort of take a Saturn's pause and allow the moon to illuminate something that I might not have seen before. Okay, that's what I think is going on here. Oh, and I want to offer this too. Because this Mercury is going to be square Neptune again. It's not happening until July, but as we start to have these ideas of, we're being asked over and over again how much we allow in our own happiness, how much we allow in our own abundance, how much do we allow in our ease. Because as co-creators, as you allow that ease, you're actually being a divine teacher to others. And that's super important. All right, let's go on to our readings for the week. Now, for those of you that are new to the show, I am an angel therapy practitioner. So this is not necessarily about astrology, but about your guides, your angels, source energy, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, giving you support and guidance for traversing the transits, for walking through your week, for allowing yourself to invite in your abundance, invite in your love. Okay, and I start with Pisces and work my way towards Aries. It's kind of funny. I did this, I don't know, how long ago did I do this? Almost a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. My Libra sun likes the balance of starting backwards. So here we go. Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I go rising first because that's your perception, how you view the world. The moon, I think, is as important as your rising, if not more important, because we manifest and co-create on our emotional body. If we are in a bad mood, we're manifesting whether we like it or not. If we're in a good mood, and so pay attention to that. I say sun because that's, how we project ourselves into the world. And stelliums, because if you have 3 and a strict stellium is 4 planets in one sign or house, it's a very strong indication of a focus that you agreed to when you made this life plan known as your life path or your birth chart. Okay, here we go. Thibaut, don't ask the universe to find somewhere lovely to live. Invite it in. Allow it in. Thank you, angels, for bringing me a new experience that I didn't know was there. You guys, I have to tell you, I live in a beautiful beach city. I've talked about this before. I never in a million years would have ever thought I could have financially afforded it. I did not see how that would play out. But what I did do was say to Spirit, this is how it feels when I'm living in a place that makes me feel harmonious. It feels, I love what I see when I look outside the windows. I love what I hear when the door is open. I feel welcomed and part of a community. Go there. Just focus in on what that lovely is and invite it in, Thibaut, and see if this idea of Jupiter retrograde gives you an opportunity to really see that your belief system has been sitting in a place that has been more focused on the challenge. This is going to be hard. This isn't going to be easy. And I'm not talking just about Tebow, but that's what the human does. The human identifies a dynamic it wants, and then it assesses through their eyeballs the viability of that. And you're never really going to be able to see with your eyes. This is more about feeling it with your heart and then asking yourself, if your soul is continuous, if there is a part of you that never dies, that lives continuously, would you call forth challenges and dynamics that didn't serve a bigger happiness on the other side of them? I think you did. And that bigger happiness, I want to give you, I always use the same metaphor. I imagine what it would be like to be auditioning for one of these singing shows, like The Voice, and singing for John Legend or Kelly Clarkson. And then, you're sitting behind, you're shaking your hands, you think you're good, you don't know if you're good. And then you get out there and you get a chair turn, and then you get two. And that mojo of that powerful co-creation of being brave enough to stick your neck out there brings in all of that validation, allowing it in. Allow it in. MJBM, allow in your perfect hearing. Allow in. Just say, thank you, Spirit, for inspiring me. And thank you for, I want to say, taking the lead at course correcting my body. And then allow it in. Don't try to figure out how it's going to happen. And try not to focus on the pain. All right, here we go. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Sierra J, if you're unsure where you want to go, then just tell Spirit, tell the universe, think about, speak about, absorb in what it would feel like. What will it feel like when I relocate? Oh, I know what it would feel like. I know it doesn't feel like being on a busy street or a highway. There's all sorts of ways you can start to take that. Good morning, Martina. We are starting with Pisces now. I've been John on for 27 minutes already. Let's get the show on the road, as my mother and dad used to say. Here we go, Pisces. Our first angel is Adriana. The second is Francesca. The third is Archangel Gabriel, and the final is Indriel. All right, Juan, you're so funny. All right, for real now. We're actually getting it going. Here we go, Pisces. Joining Adriana is the Lady of the Lake. Joining Francesca is the Serpent. Joining Archangel Gabriel is the Fear card. And joining Indriel is the Hawk. Okay, so for those of you that are new to the show, the first position is the foundational position. And for our Pisces, we have the Lady of the Lake, which represents self-respect, responsibility, courage, and also an ability to hold herself in her truth, no matter the storm, no matter her mind blowing around like crazy, zzz, and the emotional storm beneath. And if you look closely, you can see she's not gripping that sword hard. She's holding it with a very light hand. And here's Adriana saying she's leading you to the answers to your prayers, through your dreams, through your thoughts, and through those subtle intuitions. Now, I think what the Lady of the Lake says, do you have the courage to listen to those subtleties? Do you have the courage to think that your thoughts, because they sound just like you, spirit usually doesn't sound much different than your own voice. but spirit sounds more loving, more trusting, more willing to be brave, because we're going right back to, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress. You don't want to try to be positive when you're feeling negative, because it's almost like it's like putting gasoline on a fire. It's such a resistant energy. So rather than that, just allowing yourself this knowledge that this is how it feels. Most of us can identify, even when we're in the most crazy confusion, what it would feel like when we sit in harmony, or when we sit in a place that's of ease, because we can use general terms. We don't need to get specific. So are you brave enough to look at your own focus? Are you brave enough in some ways to see that you've been singing the song of your lack? That you've been so focused on pain, anguish, on challenges, that you haven't allowed yourself to really acknowledge where you've shed so many skins? Because here's Archangel Gabriel saying that, I'm here for you to identify where your fears have actually been false evidence appearing real. And Archangel Gabriel talks about having an important life's purpose in communications, but I don't think it's about that. I think it's about self-talk today. I think it's about having the bravery to say, wow, I'm a co-creator in my life. I put a desire out into the universe, and it starts to move the people and the components into place to make those things happen. So now, have I truly been aligned to what I want? Am I brave enough at this moment? Do I have the courage enough to say, oh my goodness, I've been so focused on the problem that I haven't allowed in the solution? Because here it is. There's Indriel, the light worker, and there's the hawk. And the hawk is the number 11. Our full moon in Capricorn is at the 11th degree. So this is really going to illuminate what I'm thinking. And here it is, the illumination. We are all light beings. And in doing so, we are all infinite. There is no end. There really is no beginning. There is a continuation of choices. There's the continuation of challenges. And I say it because we get excited when we conquer our challenges. And I truly believe that when we are out of body, these concepts are so obvious to us that we crave to get back under the veil so that we can experience those things in what we call a tangible way. It's almost as if we say to ourselves, if I go into the body and I don't know how powerful I am, when I realize it, it's going to be amazing. It's time to be amazing in our own lives. So Pisces, allow the illumination and allow your ruling planets of Neptune and Jupiter, both going retrograde this week, to really ask yourself, am I willing to be egoless in, that's Neptune, my beliefs, Jupiter, be egoless in not needing another human's agreement with me? Because if you're willing to be egoless and not have their agreement, maybe there's an opportunity for them to have an experience that illuminates and then inspires their agreement. I don't know why I want to say it that way. All right, let's go on to our Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you. Go with the flow. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. I love that go with the flow. I can't help but also think of the Olympian Flojo. She was fast. She lived an amazing life. She's an amazing creature. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Snakes are such an amazing divining tool. They have been used throughout ancient times in hieroglyphics in so many ways, representing both opportunities and obstacles. So I want, Shelley, for you to start to think of the snakes as offering you opportunities for healing, for reconciliation, and to shed a skin. When we shed a skin, it's not about exterminating the old, it's about allowing for the new. And this broadcast today is all about allowing, starting to allow in our happiness, not trying to figure out how to make it happen, but allowing it in, because you'll get inspired action. All right, here we go. Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Teresa. The second is Sonia. The third is Desiree. And the final is Merlina. All right. Teresa is being joined by the Wasp. Sonia is being joined by the King. Desiree's been joined by the Letting Go card. And Merlina's being joined by the Bee. You know, when I look at this spread, the foundational position, the first position, is a little bit challenging. I'm not going to say it isn't. The Wasp represents anger, frustration. It represents retaliation in some ways. And then we have Teresa, which represents really taking care of other people and more than I'm taking care of myself. Now let's think about the idea that Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Saturn is considered a malefic. It's considered a challenging energy. It's holding the line for structure. And Uranus is like, I want to blow that damn structure up. I think this might be what's going on with Aquarius. You may be feeling frustrated, stingy, because somehow you're stuck in an old structure and you've been feeling, you know, your wings. Think of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. You've been feeling those wings getting tight inside that cocoon. You're like, I'm ready to break out, and I'm sick and freaking tired of being trapped in somebody else's story. So here we go. Now we have Sonia, which represents a deceased loved one, but it also represents your team. When we're talking about the potential, Lotta's got a huge channel. So I'm not going to talk individually. I'm going to talk about the collective. So now here's your team telling you that it's time for you to claim justice. It's time for you to claim balance. It's time for you to sit as the king or queen of your own life. Because in the angel's advice is Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable. And then we have the letting go card. For those of you that are familiar with my work, I never think of this as letting go. I'm a Taurus moon. When something happens to me, I cannot just let it go. I have to reconcile it. I have to turn it into a tool. So what happened was this card became the song Let It Go from Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's time, it's justice, it's fair. It's time for you to start to really kick into the idea that you're free. And rather than trying to just assert yourself out there and kind of go explosive like Uranus, it's time for you to really look at your being energy. You might feel confused and indecisive because you're not checking into your being energy. What do I believe about this? Because you may be believing that you have to fit in somehow. And Aquarius by nature does not fit in. Aquarius is innovative. Aquarius is futuristic. Aquarius is modern and cutting edge. So to me, this is about allowing for that experience. And it's about, again, the main theme of this word of this week is to allow in my happiness, allow in my unique expression, allowing in my co-creation. What means something to me? Because the whole reason, this may sound selfish if you're in a family or you're in a marriage, but when you sit in that vibration of allowing yourself that privilege, you inadvertently allow others that privilege. And the ripple effect is lifting the vibration of the whole planet. So right now you may feel a little stingy. The idea of Jupiter going retrograde and starting this cycle of what do I believe about myself as Jupiter is heading back into Aquarius. And then, Neptune, the conflicting feeling of do I give up myself for you? Is that really being egoless, or is being egoless being authentic to myself and allowing you the privilege to being authentic to yourself? That's where we're going, Aquarius. All right, let's go on to Capricorn. As I pick up the cards and start to shuffle for Capricorn, I can't help but think how often when we get around people who give themselves permission to be themselves, there's this feeling of excitement and this feeling of, oh, I want to do that too. I want to be able to do that. And when you give yourself that permission, you literally give that ripple effect of excitement and invitation to others. All right, here we go. Capricorn, rising moon, sun and stelliums. I love me my goats. First thing I want to say about my goats is always think of the baby goat. Don't go to that old cranky goat. Think about that little baby goat that just loves to dance. Or hop or jump. I don't know what they do. But they look really fun. All right, here we go. Capricorn, our first angel in the foundational position is Yvonne. The second is Grace and Antoinette. The third is Bridget. And the final is Sonia. All right, here we go. Yvonne is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Letting Go card. Bridget is being joined by the Wasp. And Sonia is being joined by the Spider. I shouldn't say, I've noticed when I watch some of my videos back, I say so a lot. Pardon me for that. And I apologize. Capricorn, I'm excited for you. I really am. Because Yvonne represents a sense of vulnerability. And that vulnerability is not about being exposed. It's about a deeper truth. It's about, whenever we truly love something, whenever we desire something, we are vulnerable. We are actually triggered into the lack of it. So what I think is it's time for Capricorn, with your full moon coming this week, to allow yourself the illumination of what's really important to you. The Lady of the Lake, we can see this emotional storm she sits in. And her hair is flying because her mind is buzzing around. And yet she holds Excalibur, the sword of truth, with a light hand. And that's where the real vulnerability comes in. Because now it's time for the goat to traverse the mountain authentically on your own path. And in doing so, having compassion for yourself as you unravel old obligations, old duties that are no longer your job. Because I just said the letting go card is all about let it go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small. And the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. And now it's time to have compassion as you unravel those fears. Because if you look at it, the angels are going to say, those fears have just made you angry and they've blocked your manifestation. And here is Bridget saying, look deeper. Look deeper into, are you focusing in on just being pissed off now? Are you focused in on the injustice of what you've experienced? Because it's time to put that sword down and really be more vulnerable to a bigger idea of what you want. So now, Capricorn, this is Sonia representing your team of loved ones, your team of heavenly hosts, those that watch over and guide you and actually co-create with you. And now here's the spider. And the first thing I see is this network. And the network of the web is your team telling you, be in relation with us. Because as you're in relation with us, we start to put into place those things that you are calling forth. And in a way of balance, in a way where people see the wisdom of the shift. Because the only person I think that is getting up your grill really is you, Capricorn, because of that sense of feeling, no, I have to do this. If I don't do that, nobody will do it. If I don't take care of that, my mom won't get this. Or if I don't do that, my husband or my kids or whatever your story is, my boss, I can't take a vacation. They need me. I have months and months of vacation all stacked up. Haven't taken one for years, but they need me. Capricorn, maybe they don't need you. Maybe you need you. And if you need you and you own it, then you will actually be better serving others. That's where I'm going. All right. And your ruling planet is your ruling planet Saturn is one of the main themes of this year. And this year is about the conversation between Uranus and Saturn saying, I want to innovate. And Saturn saying, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Allow for that. Allow for that cooperative conversation, even though it may appear tense. All right. Thank you, guys. It's so cold here. It's so weird because I've been hearing on the news all about these heat waves in California, and there is no heat wave in Laguna Beach. It's like it's its own ecosystem. It's absolutely cloudy, 87% humidity. My hair. Bzzz. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stars. L. Verbena, Charlotte's Web. I'll tell you, I can remember reading that book and crying so hard at the end of that book that I could not finish, like the tears rolling down my face. Oh my goodness. I love a good book. Okay. And that was an amazing book. All right, here we go. Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The second is Xana. The third is Daniel. And the final is Celeste. Ooh. Well, welcome, Dash Dash. You don't have a name. We'll just call you Dash Dash. Welsh Roses, animals speak. We have to listen with our hearts, not our ears. Okay, Sagittarius, Shanti, the angel of peace, is being joined by the wind fairy. Xana is being joined by the hawk. Daniel is being joined by the dragon. And Celeste is being joined by the protection card. This is very interesting because there's a lot of 11s in this spread for me, and 3 of 4 of the cards, or 3 of 8 of them, I should say. But the angel cards don't have numbers on them. So here we have a Capricorn full moon and the 11th degree. 11 is the master number of thought. Our thoughts are the beginning of our creation. So what does Shanti offer Sagittarius? She offers you peace as you're aware of your thoughts, aware of your perceptions. And I want to say it this way because, in the beginning, when we start to become aware of being in the now, what is happening now, we can get a little annoyed with the back and forth of our mind. And if you think about Mercury is in its storm period right now, it's about to go direct. So there may feel like the minute you have a peaceful thought, then you have a a disruptive thought, allow them to flow back and forth. Don't try to grab onto anything right now, because our thoughts, while they create a certain momentum, and that momentum then creates our experience, there is a part of our soul holding space for us. Our entire soul is not encompassed in this physical case. There's so much more there. So what I want to say is, Santa is telling you that you're actually being protected. And you're starting to really realize, as Sagittarius' ruling planet of Jupiter goes retrograde, that you're going to reflect on your spiritual journey. And I believe that what you're going to see is a lot of pride in your growth. A lot of, wow, I've come further than I thought. I'm more aligned than I realized, and settling into that. I think this is what's being offered to you, because Daniel represents marriage. I think this is not marriage to another human being, but rather a cooperative component within your thoughts to allow them to float in and out rather effortlessly. And as you do, you feel more empowered, because you realize that if you don't grab on to the negative thought, or the thought that's challenging, or the thought that throws you into a strategic place, that the universe starts to bring in those experiences that support the shift in your way of thinking. You know, Celeste talks about a new home and a new place of employment, but you put my body anywhere, I think a certain way. My being energy has a certain dynamic. And so that belief now has been shifted to understanding. Here's the card of protection again. And there's a 38. This is an 11. The wind fairy obviously is talking about my thoughts, but she's also a 29, which reduces down to an 11. So as the full moon in Capricorn at the 11th degree illuminates your thought process, and rather than judging yourself or saying to yourself, Sagittarius, you should know better. You should know better, because you represent higher thinking. You represent judges, you represent priests, you represent, the connection to the angelic realm. Don't go there. Don't judge yourself. Allow yourself to know that part of the process of the unknowing is what is giving such excitement and birth and exhilaration when we step into the knowing. So be gentle with yourself as you walk through these next few months, and your way of being, your way of thinking, your way of processing your own experiences starts to transform in ways you did not expect. And I think they're all for the best, all for the peace, all for the harmony, all for the understanding. I have been going through this. I've really become convinced that my body can no longer tolerate dairy. I mean, like literally an allergic reaction. And at first I was very vulnerable to it as it started to happen. And then I became more and more empowered as I stepped into a cooperative relationship with spirit about my body. I started to realize that I had been calling forth more happiness, more joy, more health. And in doing so, there were certain things that were contributing to a more dense feeling within myself. So as I started to connect the dots, then when I went through the challenge, as I got over the top of it, I started to realize how I was co-creating, and then I shifted into the place of empowerment to allow in the good experience, or the more higher vibrational experience, versus the challenge. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. I don't think that it's going off dreaming with Tess. I think it's almost as if you're saying, if I'm no longer going to cave in and allow injustice in my life, what you're really saying, and which would actually be more powerful in your phraseology, would be I'm inviting in justice. I'm inviting in my happiness. And by holding the line of allowing previous experiences to sit in their previous place, their history, then what I'm doing is opening a space for the new experience to come in without invalidating the old experience. Hope that makes sense. All right, here we go. Scorpio, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I have Neptune in Scorpio as well, and Mercury in the 8th house. I'll tell you, this talking to the dead thing. Boy. All right, here we go. Our first angel is Sonia, speaking of talking to the dead. Seraphina's in the opportunity of the obstacle. Adriana's in the angel's advice. And Daniel is in the final outcome. Alrighty. Scorpio, joining Sonia is the water fairy. Joining Seraphina is the lady of the lake. Joining Adriana is the queen. And joining Daniel is the high priestess. Very, very interesting. Sonia represents a deceased loved one, saying that they're well and cared for in heaven. I don't think so. I think this is really about your team and about your inner knowing. Pluto rules you. Pluto is retrograde right now and working in coordination with Saturn and Jupiter. Whether we realize it or not, Pluto is asking us to transform our Saturnian ways and to become more aligned to what we have called forth through Jupiter's energy. So I believe that your intuition, Scorpio, is going to go through the roof over these next few months, and it's time to start to work with it, and not in an alarmist way, and not in a way that is holding you to some sort of vibration that is fear-based. I feel like this is really about connecting in a way that says, there's so much more that I can't see, but I can feel it, because that is what Scorpio represents. It's the feeling and the knowing of that which I cannot see with my eyes, because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is the lady of the lake. And this is kind of where Scorpio takes ownership for your feelings, hence the storm, the water. Then we have this your thoughts are here. We see your hair blowing. And as I talk to Scorpio, I can't help but notice this red ribbon. And this red ribbon really represents right now for me my base chakra. And my base chakra may be scared sometimes. But if I'm willing to hold Excalibur, the truth of who and what I am, to own the depths of who I am, to stop calling myself stingy, and to start to realize that I am one of the most intuitive signs of the zodiac, and my job is to allow for that transformation, to allow, because Seraphina calls forth more happiness, not just within yourself, but within those around you. And here we have the Queen, which represents reception. And Adriana saying, I'm leading you to the answers to your prayers. So Scorpio, these prayers are really, to me, when I think about it, there's a connection that Scorpio wants within their intimate relationships like no other. Scorpio represents, the activities within the bedroom. If the 12th house, Pisces, represents sleep, and the 8th house represents sex, it's the vulnerability of what we do in the dark without our clothes on. And I want to take that much deeper, because to me, this is an exposure of myself in a way that is an offering. And that offering is for the deeper experience. But it's your job, Scorpio, to hold the line for that deeper experience. Because in the final position is Daniel, the angel of marriage, and there's the high priestess. Daniel will talk about the history you have within your relationships, but I also believe that what Spirit is offering you is this deeper picture of what you want in relationship. And when you're willing to sit in that deeper knowing, then if the alignment of whoever the human is in your life right now doesn't align, then allowing yourself to sit back for a minute And rather than saying to yourself, I need to extract that depth from the other person, allowing that depth to reveal itself, and to be brave in your willingness to allow for the alignment or to recognize that there isn't alignment, and then allowing spirit to lead you to what you really want to receive. It's not about a breakup. It's not about saying goodbye to one thing or another. It's about an interior job of inviting in a deeper, more savory experience. You know, when I think about the fact that I have Neptune and Mercury in the 8th house of Scorpio, I feel like I could not have a partner that wouldn't allow me to think, speak, teach, and write, and engage in everyday activities that are Scorpion and Neptunian. And so rather than looking at that as a challenge, looking at the death part of it, looking at like I'm never going to attain it, I have to invite it in. This is spirit, trusting my feelings, my intuitions. I'm on Scorpio right now. And this is where I really start to look deeper into the relationships and the vulnerability within those relationships. And I start to call forth the experience that I want. Thank you, Spirit. I'm excited about somebody who likes to converse the way I like to converse. I am excited about somebody who is aligned to me sexually, whether that is explorative or, I don't know if that's a word, explorative, whether that's exploratory or whether it's conservative. All we're really talking about is alignment. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's get this show on the road. Teri's talking a lot. I think it does. I think the soulmate situation, we use the word soulmate sort of as it's an exclusivity, but I think it really represents an alignment. Some sort of common vibration that we hold together. All right. I think Scorpio is misunderstood by a lot of people because the depths of what they see is oftentimes what some of the other people are trying to cover up. So I think there's going to be less cover-ups. I think that's part of what these transits have been doing. It's more about allowing yourself to be your authentic self and seeing how people accept you for that. All right, here we go. Libra, our first angel is Caressa. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Crystal. And then Daniel in the final position. Thank you. Tijana, or I'm not saying that right. Is it Tijana? No, I think it's Tijana. Thank you so much. We're going to get to Virgo next, Cheryl. I go backwards. Yes, Daniel again. All right, here we go, Libra. Caressa is being joined by the Hawk. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Crystal's being joined by the Movement card. And Merlin is being joined by, or Daniel's being joined by Merlin. This is what I want to say for Libra. Recently, I being a Libra sun, Mercury's been doing its thing and bringing old dynamics back into my world for assessment, for review. And I started to think about the dynamics of those old things. And if indeed they were aligned to what I have been telling Spirit I want in the way of connection, in what it feels like to be Teri in this chapter of her life. I'm 61 years old. I got no time or patience for any BS anymore. So what I've been telling Spirit is I am aligned to people, places, and dynamics that support my individuality. I'm no longer looked at the woman who has all the answers, that I too feel supported, because I don't feel supported often. In my world, the people around me go, you got this, and they literally just shake me off. And it was starting to piss me off. So This is where I'm going with this. Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle right now, Libra. New happiness awaits you. And the hawk was really where I started to put together the idea that, oh, this is about inviting in my happiness, not telling, like, the vision boards and the trying to figure it out in my head when I was feeling not aligned to it was actually hard. So here it's like, okay, I'm just going to go broad. I'm just going to go broad and say, I feel supported by those around me. I feel valued by the people and experiences in my life. I feel loved the way Teri needs to be loved, because everybody loves a little bit different. So here it is. Now is my job to stay in this willingness to close one chapter while another chapter opens. And here it is. Archangel Gabriel asking me, how am I running my everyday experiences? You know, this is Mercury to me. And do I have the courage to sit through the storm of everybody not understanding me? You know, in my world, I move like a millisecond, and I am like, I'm going to give you kind of a specific situation. Somebody has been rude to me, canceled on me, made plans with me, and then ultimately, after canceling on me umpteen million times, said to me, oh, I can just come over for 15 minutes. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have relationships that are 15 minutes long. I don't want to feel squeezed in anymore. Steve Maraboli posted something on Instagram that said something to the effect, there are people that will talk to you in their free time, and then there are people that will free their time to talk to you. And that's what I want. So this is where I'm going with this. There's a certain amount of stress, I guess, that I'm going to have to hold as I start to assess that. But what Spirit is showing me, Libra, is that when I hold space for those relationships that feel joyful, that feel valuable, where I feel valued and I value them, there will be movement. And maybe that is not about villainizing the old, but rather just holding space for the new. Because Teri is a 61-year-old Libra who was never married. And this is the Daniel, the angel of marriage, but also the angel that represents my history in intimate relationships. And there's Merlin offering balance, justice, and alchemy. But part of that, Libra, is holding a bigger space and in some respects saying, because those of you that have a heavy Libra influence, I kind of do, because I'm a Taurus moon, so I've got that double Venusian energy, but I am an Aries rising. So I'm very fiery. But if you have a large influence from Libra, you're going to be overly accommodating. So it's really about the bigger picture. It's about Libra saying, I really want to be happy, and I'm holding a bigger space and a broader viewpoint of that. And I'm not micromanaging other people, but rather being courageous enough to stand in how does my everyday life look that supports the bigger version of what I want? Because there will be movement and there will be connection. And I really believe that this is at a higher vibration. All right. Let's go on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. For those of you that are new checking in, I go backwards. Janine, are you an Aries rising and a Taurus moon? Welcome, welcome to the party. Oh my goodness, so you're going through the same thing that I've been going through with Pluto squaring the Aries rising and Uranus. Are you not? Premier Dame, you're an Aries rising, Libra sun, and Taurus moon as well? Holy camole. I've never met anybody that has those three same things like me. Wow, that's cool. I like my configurations, honestly. All right, here we go. Virgo. Our first angel is Crystal. The second is Bridget. The third is Serena. And the final is Indriel. All right. Crystal is being joined by Merlin. Bridget's being joined by the Wind Fairy. Serena's being joined by the Frog. And Indriel's being joined by the Fear card. Okay, so for my Virgos, Crystal says, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And then there's Merlin. Merlin offers balance. It's a karmic card for me. You know, he's the grand wizard. It's about justice. It's about legal things. And in many ways, I believe that Virgo has been going through this transformation of unraveling where they've enslaved themselves. You know, the sixth house rules employment and health. And if we have a bad job or bad health, we are absolutely enslaved to that. It also represents obligatory action. It does represent slavery in old times. So I believe that Crystal is offering you a new beginning. And part of the challenge of that is for you, Virgo, to shift from having to be perfect for everybody, having to it's kind of like Capricorn in some respects, because you will be very, very diligent and dependable in your actions. And now the time is to be diligent in the actions for yourself, to sit in the unknown for 1 minute or 2 minutes and start to contemplate that this life experience is truly fabulously flawed. There is nothing perfect here. Perfection is not even an enjoyable energy. Fabulously flawed is an enjoyable energy, because what it does is it allows me to bang around this planet and explore my powers of co-creation and not having to be perfect at everything or 100%. Because Bridget is offering you an opportunity to look deeper into how you analyze things. And how you analyze them has been based on value. What value does it bring? Now it's time to see that some things are valuable in their lack of value. There's this commercial right now out. I don't know what it's even for. And there's some actress, I don't know who she is. I think her name is Mindy something. And she's sitting between two extras, and they're on the ground, and she looks at them and she goes, if you're enjoying wasting time, are you really wasting time? Exactly. That's what I want to say for Virgo. If you're enjoying something, if you're, I kind of feel like this is completely rewriting your story. It's allowing yourself to go on the same journey with a new perspective. And that perspective is, I'm supposed to be an explorer here, or I get to be an explorer here. I get to be flawed because it's part of what I'm learning, because I'm ruled by I'm ruled by Mercury. Because here is the light worker, Indriel. And I just see that light about the top of her crown chakra. This is an epiphany. That epiphany is telling me false evidence appearing real. And that false evidence is that I have to provide some sort of value. And I'm enslaved to that dynamic. And I want to say this too, because I feel like for Virgo, when I look deeper into my thought process and how I have inadvertently put these boundaries up, I have inadvertently somehow said, I can't do that. That's not part of what works for me or how things roll for me, because this really feels like it's about value. And I feel like it's about your value. And the frog is giving you an opportunity to leap to a new lily pad and to know that you're valuable just because you exist. And that's your greatest gift. All right. Virgo's love and self-mastery. I have Pluto and Venus in Virgo. And I really feel like this was about not possessions, Venus representing possessions, or even the female dynamic, as much as it represents. Venus rules Taurus, the second house. That's our family history. And our family history is how our confidence walking through life, where that's nurtured. So I felt like part of me having Venus in Virgo and being so close to Pluto was about transforming self-worth, transforming it from being enslaved to, do you think I'm worthy? To me starting to think, do I think I'm worthy? And does your opinion really matter to me? Because if you don't support my happiness, why do I care what your opinion is? Honestly. Sounds a little rough maybe to some people, but I don't think so. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Okay, so this is what I want to say for all of you that are new, because I'm really convinced that we need to pay attention to Leo from a new perspective. Leo rules the 5th house. The 5th house is the house that rules the most fun. Romance, crafts, hobbies, children screaming, playing, giggling. And I feel like Leo is really how we're supposed to be, like the dynamic we're supposed to be playing to. So let's take Saturn and its dynamic. Work hard at whatever it is. Saturn never assigns us our job. Saturn just wants us to work hard whether we like it or not. So what if, instead of picking a job from a Virgonian enslaved place, no offense to Virgo, but we pick it from a Leo place that sounds like fun, then all that road of potholes and twists and turns becomes much more exciting. That's what I think all this transformation is about. All right, here we go. Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And you know, I'm just going to say it. If you want to hit the like button, I'm okay with that. That was my Leo roar. I have a lot of my house cusps on the Leo degree. And if we look at my hair, kind of have that lion's mane. All right. Yes, Uncle Dan. Somebody loves you. Loves all of you. Here we go. Leo, Fiona is in the foundational position. Bridget is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Rochelle is in the angel's advice. And Daniel is again in the final position. Oh, love is in the air. Hi, South Africa. Kathy, good to see you. Let's see. What I say is that Vesla? Okay, I know, Valentina. Again, Daniel, the angel of marriage. I do think that the circumstances of the last year have made people be much more open and willing to looking at their love bodies. All right, Leo, here we go. Fiona's being joined by the butterfly. Bridget is being joined by the focus card. Rochelle is being joined by the partnership card. And Daniel's being joined by the fear card. Very interesting. Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And there's the butterfly. I want to say it this way. Look how joyous that Fiona is. And look at look around her head. Look at this sort of light blue. It sort of feels like an illumination of the way I'm speaking to myself. And this butterfly right now is really making me feel like it's all about beauty, not about the transformation from the caterpillar, but really beauty, and starting to focus in on the beauty of the transformation, the beauty of the unknown, because Bridget is asking Leo to look at her focus or their focus, because the focus, if it's on the challenges, if it's been on trying to dumb yourself down, if it's not been aligned to the truth of the truth of Leo, if you're not playing, if you're not having fun, if you're not laughing right now, I want you to have more fun, because here is the partnership card and the angel's advice, and Rochelle saying, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming to you, but this is harmonious wealth. And if there was an angel that represented the Leo energy in its purity, it would be Rochelle. And I want to offer it this way, because this partnership feels like it's with your heart, but it's also been, there's this weird feeling of Leo needs an audience. Okay, when we have, Leo represents our personal creation, and while we're excited about our personal creation, we take that creation out into the world, and we want people to see it, and we want them to support it. So the reason I say all of this is because I feel like for Leo right now, there's a part of you that gets to look at how maybe you have been perceiving what you want and what you desire, and in some ways you've been holding yourself back from it. And because you may be projecting on how will it be received by others, but also I feel like there's something to do with the value of what it is. Because Daniel, while he represents marriage, again, he represents a story of a journey, and a journey of interactions with others. This is absolutely about interactions. And then there's the fear card. And I really want to go to the idea of false evidence appearing real, because that's what's going on with this history. So let me back this up because it feels a little choppy. I feel like this is about all things Leo. It could be about romance, because Daniel is the angel of marriage. But I think it's about children. It's about fun. It's about being frivolous. It's about coloring. It's about my hobbies. It's about all the things that I find pleasant and exhilarating. I don't even want to just say joyful, because now is a time to really allow for that to blossom, and in such a way where you take ownership of it. Because if you have not been feeling it, your focus could be more on what is not working than what is working. Uncle Dan, I love to color. I have a ton of coloring books. I have a ton of little art projects that I do all the time. And as Pluto has been transiting me in such a challenging way, I have allowed myself the privilege of enjoying my art projects, of enjoying my Leo energy, and not necessarily feeling this push to achieve, because as I've allowed for this moment of art and beauty to come into my experience, it gives me something where I feel more inspired to want to achieve more. It's sort of one thing feeds the next. So I want to offer this. As Fiona is asking you to open up to spirit in this idea of my viewpoint, my perception is one of support, and I start to focus on the beauty of life, I feel like there's going to be more opportunities for Leo to feel empowered through your fears. Feel almost starting to see the wisdom of how fear is really the device for empowerment, the device for achievement, the device for exhilaration. Okay, that's where I'm going. Ray asked me what deck I'm using. I use 2 decks. I use Doreen Virtue's Messages from Your Angels, and then I use Colette Baron Reed's Legend of Avalon. And I marry the 2 together. I've used them for quite a long time, so I don't go by whatever the book says. The angels, they talk to me and give me different dimensions of their vibrations as we address different topics. All right, here we go. On to our Cancers. And I'm going to take a sip of my tea. It's cold now. All right, here we go. Uncle Dan, it's so good to hear that you're coloring. I love that idea. Oh, and Sierra colors as well. I love to color. I love all sorts of art projects. I guess that's my double Venus influence. Oh, small. I'm glad the word X is in that sentence. I have a client who actually, I do this diamond art stuff and I'm really into it. It's a little bit addictive for me. And I have a client who I told about it, and her boyfriend do the diamond art together. It's really cute. They lay out it's sort of a puzzle, and he sits at one end of the table and she sits at the other end of the table, and they work on it together. And I think that's so awesome. I really do. So small, I'm glad that your X is an X, so you can find someone who likes to color with you. Maybe that'll be Uncle Dan. I do a lot of mandalas too. I used to do a lot of mandalas. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Here we go. Cancer, our first angel is Crystal. The second is Seraphina. The third is Shanti. And the final is Melina. This is whole sign Western astrology that I do. That's how I was taught by Lada. And I don't resonate with me personally. My Vedic chart doesn't resonate with how I feel like I show up in the world. All right, here we go. Cancer, our first angel, Crystal's being joined by the swan. Seraphina's being joined by the frog. Shanti's being joined by the wind fairy. And Merlina's being joined by the Grail Knight. I'm going to pull a clarification card for the last position. Okay, the Baird. So, Crystal says, have faith and hope there's more on the horizon that you cannot see. And there's the swan representing transformation and the being in touch with my intuitive gifts. Cancer, you're ruled by the moon. And you really, if you would allow yourself, and I say allow yourself to be the intuitive, nurturing being that you are and not be afraid of your intuition. And I say that because this is what I think the swan offers. I think in some ways, Cancer being ruled also by the crab does the crab crawl this way, right? So sometimes it's a little bit afraid to take a step forward. And sometimes your intuition may say, I need to take a step forward. But the step is not about a physical movement. It's going back to the be, do, have we were talking about at the beginning of the broadcast. What is my attitude about the situation? My being energy, my belief, my disposition. What is my, once I've identified that, then I can take my action. Because Seraphina in the opportunity or the obstacle is offering you a happy change to your family. And then there's the frog, which is the cleaning up of emotional baggage. And what I think that is your willingness to sit in the unknown of what Crystal says. She's saying, go to your intuition. Don't look outside with your eyeballs. If you look with your eyeballs, you may get messed up because your eyeballs are going to trigger your thoughts, and your thoughts are going to trigger your insecurities. Your thoughts are going to say, oh, I don't know, I've never seen that before. I've never experienced that before, so it probably isn't going to happen. Not for me. Oh, no, oh, no. And Shanti's saying, I'm here to give you peace. And that peace will come when you start to recognize that that thought is an old story. And Cancer, don't drive your car staring in the rearview mirror. It's meant as a point of reference. Look through this big windshield you have. When you look through the windshield, you see the big future. Move forward. Because Merlina says you're confused and indecisive because you want something to come into the solid world. You're like, I want it. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want it now. But part of your job is not to get in the delusion or the illusion of lack, but rather to bow down to the Grail Knight, to the cup, the chalice, the sword of truth, Excalibur, and to own it. Because now is a time to tell a new story. Because if you keep looking to the old story, you're not going to get what you want. And then we kick in the laws of attraction. So for me, what I want to say for Cancer is that I think that this week and the aspects that are happening with these retrogrades are giving you a personal opportunity to go into your intuitive body, into the part of you that is nurturing, and to nurture yourself and to trust that if you have a desire, and what do you desire most? Family, home, hearth, the whole Joanna Gaines experience. Yes, and you deserve it. Now invite it in. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you for bringing me all the things, all my dreams, all the dreams I don't even know I have yet. I'm ready to receive them, and to receive them first in my heart. And as I receive them in my heart, they'll start to show up in the material world. All right, let's go on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I love that, Elle. The birds are always about keeping your sight high, flying to the heights that you can reach. Black Beauty, I go backwards. So Scorpio was a ways ago. I'm sure Juan will know the timestamp because he's so good at that. All right, here we go. Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Give it a good shuffle. Shanti, the angel of peace. Layla is in the opportunity of the obstacle. Fiona is in the angel's advice. And Francesca is in the final position. Valentina, maybe that ex that totally ghosted you was actually a gift from the universe. Thank you very much. I've started to think about it because you know what? If someone has the ability to ghost you, then are they really of the vibration to stand for your happiness? That's been my question. Because I've had people who tell me they love me and that I mean something to them, and then they ghost me whenever it's convenient for them. You know, those friends that get a boyfriend and then they disappear until they break up with the boyfriend who was a... Oh, did I say that out loud? All right, here we go. Shanti, Gemini, is being joined by the dragon. Layla's being joined by the movement card. Fiona's being joined by the queen. And Francesca's being joined by the burden card. Okay, so this is what I want to offer you. You know, Gemini is, to me, Gemini really is the busiest sign of the zodiac because it represents our everyday activities. I kind of think of it as a mom, you know, who's running to the carpool, running to the market with her kids, having, you know, a million different activities and having to be everywhere at the same time. So this is what I want to offer you. In the foundational position, we have Shanti, the angel of peace, and the dragon. And I believe that what is happening here is Spirit is offering Gemini a sense of peace as you allow yourself. Your power comes from being calm and not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And I'm not saying that in a judgy way as much as it's more in a way of giving yourself an opportunity to not be driven by your life, but rather to drive your life. Because I think that there's this is how I want to say, kind of going to sound a little kooky, but I feel like Gemini, you can ask Spirit to stretch time for you. Like with your everyday activities. I used to work in a job that was about 15 minutes away from my home. And I would get out of bed the very last minute, take a shower, run out of the house with my hair wet because I'm just so crazy about sleep. And I used to say to Spirit, thank you for stretching time. Thank you for stretching time. And in doing so, I would make every single light and get there in 12 minutes. Okay, it's going to sound weird, Gemini, but I think this is where they're going with this. I feel like the movement comes when you start to actually engage Spirit into the idea of working with you with your everyday activities. And rather than feeling like you're being driven by the activities, you go back to Spirit and say, thank you so much for slowing down the roll so I can actually receive the bounty. Because I think you're getting a little bit caught up. And with Mercury being in retrograde, it's a very good possibility that you've been caught up in what isn't happening, what you're not getting done, what you're not doing, what you're not producing, and it's becoming burdensome. And I feel like, you know, if I could, I'd kind of say, get on a rest stop and just slow it down and decide what is most important to you, Gemini. What activities, what thoughts are you doing? What permissions are you giving yourself that are really authentic to what you want to experience versus where you've been? I feel like this is a super general for Gemini. And I think it's general because it's more about an approach. That's what I'm feeling. It's more about an approach to a certain situation or a dynamic than it is about the actual actions taken within it. I was talked earlier about the be, do, have. What is my belief? What is my attitude? What is my disposition? So when I say, you know what, as a Gemini, I am cool as a cucumber. I am peaceful. My perception is one, I'm going to continue to look for what works for me. And if indeed something comes across my path that I don't like, I'm going to think it's working for me because I've just identified something I no longer need to experience. So Spirit can move it the heck out of my experience so that I can start to have that illumination and focus in on what I do want to experience. Because the duality of Gemini and then the branding of our brains, the human brain is branded so quickly in life that we could trigger, it can go back. The minute, every thought is two thoughts. First, there's the thought of what we want, and then there's the lack thereof. So as we start to realize that, we can lift the burden and we can say, thank you, Spirit. I can't really get out of that loop of thought, but I can invite in a new experience and do my best to stay as cool and calm as you reveal to me the next inspired action. And I'll take it as a Gemini. All right, let's go on to Taurus. Here we go, Taurus, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Uncle Dan, I was feeling super tired this week too. And a little birdie in the chat told me that they were feeling quote unquote lazy this week. And I don't know if lazy is really lazy, but maybe it's all about right now giving ourselves permissions not to be on the hamster wheel of our lives. I was listening, I hate when I do that. I was listening to something on God knows what, the internet. And they were talking about dogs, healthy dogs. And healthy dogs sleep 16 hours a day. That's what they said. And I was like, maybe humans should be more like animals and give themselves permission to relax. Elle, I want to offer this when you pray for peace every night. Thank you, Spirit, for bringing me peaceful experiences that support my calm mind. Because there's a vibration of asking something with the underlying frequency of lack. So when we ask for something, please, God, please help me, that's all lack. That's all lack. Thank you, Spirit, for me seeing the wisdom of my challenges. Thank you for empowering me beyond them. Thank you for me saying no to imbalance rather than saying yes to somebody else's agenda that doesn't actually make me happy. There are, I personally have experienced in my own intimate circle, people who have said things to me like, I'm going to be very blunt right now. I had somebody who I didn't even get along with very well. We'd had a long relationship, and as that relationship got further and further along, we weren't aligned. And this woman said to me, just be in my wedding, just be my maid of honor. And when the wedding's over, forget about it. She just wanted me there for the pictures, for the history we had versus the experiences we were having right now. The point I'm trying to make is I don't want to live that anymore. I don't want to live those vibrations. So if that happened to me today, I would say, no, I can't be in your wedding. It's not authentic to my truth. This is where I'm going. It's not selfish. It's a bigger form of love, and it's disruptive. All right, here we go. Hey, Space for the Soul, good to see you. All right, here we go. Taurus, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Celeste. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Yvonne. And the final is Athena. All right, Taurus. Woohoo! Uranus is floating all over my moon. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So you know what I do? I dance and I sing a lot lately. My poor neighbors, they're having to listen to all sorts of 70s music as I dance around and sing. All right, Celeste is being joined by the Raven. Archangel Michael is being joined by the love card. Yvonne's being joined by the dragon. And Athena is being joined by the communications card. Okay, so Celeste represents a happy new home or place of employment. And then there's the Raven. I don't really think of it. If we were doing an individual reading, I may see Celeste as that. But when we do a large reading, I think of it as a shift in the way I'm thinking. Wherever I am, I think a certain way, and I take my actions based on that belief. So, okay, I know Uranus is squaring Taurus right now. Well, it's not squaring Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus, triggering my moon, which is squaring Saturn. Yay. And it's also triggering some trines. But I want to offer it this way. This is where I'm going. Taurus, it's time to allow yourself the magic of new thought. The Raven represents coincidence, synchronistic events, and magic. And if you look at the Raven, it's sitting on a skull. It's traveled deep into the underworld, almost a Plutonian energy, and it has come back renewed because it understands the magic of the universe comes from my thoughts. That's my co-creation. And when I start to get a little bit too stuck and too bullish, then I'm actually working against myself, because Archangel Michael is asking Taurus to actually come from the love vibration. And the love vibration is seeing Uranus making these aspects to whatever dynamics are in your chart, and then to see how it serves love, what you love, in a bigger way, in a bigger picture. And when I say a bigger picture, it's sort of like the human creates or thinks they create on where they've been. I know this about me, so knowing this about me takes me over here in the future. I 100% disagree with that. Yes, it's what we do, but what I know about me here is evolving. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier when I was like inviting in the evolved version of myself, which is inviting in my happiness. Because I think, Taurus, it's time to be vulnerable to your own strength, your own, when I think about these aspects right now, and I think about how they're hitting my personal birth chart, for a while there, I was scared. For a while there, I thought, am I going to be hit by lightning? Am I going to have a heart attack? The opposite has happened. I found myself more empowered by my vulnerability and my willingness to sit in a much deeper version of what I think is love. So let me go back to that. This love idea is when I'm pushing up against relationships that actually piss me off, I'm not being loving. So even though we have DNA that we share, or we have decades of history that we share in a friendship, if I have a charge on you, or if I'm mad at you, or if our relationship really doesn't work, do I serve either one of us by trying to push up against that relationship and keep it where it's been? Or is the more loving thing to be vulnerable to what I know, my power and strength, and to step out of it? Or step away from it for now? Because this communications card doesn't feel like talk to others. It feels like self-talk. And the self-talk feels like, what if I'm actually empowered to move towards what makes me happy? Last night, I had a conversation with an old friend, and I said to him, I don't want to go back around the mulberry bush with some people. I've gone in over and over again trying to be an evolved version of myself, but there's not a meeting of the minds. And even though there's a part of me that has love for those people, I don't necessarily feel love back. So I'm going to step out, Taurus. I'm going to step out. I'm going to step out in my mind. I'm going to say, you know what? What if I just hold steady? And the holding steady is the idea that I'm inviting in a vibration that supports me feeling supported, me feeling valued, me feeling loved, me thriving. And in doing so, with all those elements in place, the people that are interacting with me will feel the same reciprocated to them. So I don't want to, Sierra, I don't want to call it eliminating. I just want to say, my experience of you is not supporting the version of what I want to live right now. So I'm going to put you on the outer rings. You're going to be an outer planet in my life. And I'm not going to invest in hoping you change so I can be happy. Taurus will do that sometimes. They'll hope other people will change, and they don't. Okay, so I'm going on to my final sign, Aries. Here we go, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now I'm going to have to listen to Blackbird. That's a great song. I love that song. You know, Maria, I think that on some level that's correct, but I think that the narcissism is not fair, because I think so many of us are trained to live our lives to make other people happy, that narcissism has been a natural rebellion to that. So I kind of want to temper that idea. And rather than look at it as narcissism, actually look at it as a gift. If I'm brave enough to think my happiness is worthy, then somehow I'm going to give you permission to be happy too. All right. Double Aries. So you're courageous and you're a warrior for truth and justice and balance, I think, Maria. I really love being an Aries rising. You know, I know that there's some challenging dynamics to Aries, but I kind of think of Aries as you know, this vibration that's misunderstood, because it's kind of like Scorpio a little bit. It's like, I just want to dig deep, you know, just tell me the truth and I can deal with it. But when you give me all these stories trying to be politically correct with this or that, I have no time for that. All right, here we go. Aries, Francesca is saying, what do you visualize right now? Focus on that and it will come about. Fiona's asking you to turn over some of it to God and the angels. There's Archangel Michael and there's Rosetta. All right. Francesca is being joined by the restriction card. Fiona's being joined by the focus card. Archangel Michael's being joined by the dragon. And Rosetta's being joined by the forgiveness card. So late born Aries and rising and moon are all having the square to Pluto. I've got it exact right now. It's so exciting, 26 degrees, yeah. And then it's going to go on to my Mars. And I say this because that it could be a scary thought with all these planets, these malefic planets hitting Aries in so many quote unquote challenging ways. But I want to offer it this way, because I think that Aries can claim themselves in the way that, yes, we are straightforward and we don't really like sugarcoating it, because sugar isn't good for us. Sugar diminishes our immune system for 6 hours after we ingest it, making us vulnerable to any sort of perpetrators or some dis-ease that may enter our physical being. So this is what I want to say. Francesca is saying, where's your focus? And on the challenging side of Aries, my focus is I'm pissed off. And I've been just, and it has been unjust. So I'm going to go back to my Taurus story, because I don't want to be angry at other people. I want to take a pause, restriction, to look at where my focus is. My focus sometimes inadvertently goes to justifying my behaviors. My focus goes into my story about how you done me wrong. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to recognize I'm participating in it. This is my opportunity and or my obstacle. I may be right as I'll get up. I may be situationally correct, but I'm vibrationally not aligned to my own happiness. And therefore, whoever's outside pissing me off really isn't their problem. It's mine. So I'm going to say to Spirit, I'm done. I'm done with the rear view mirror focus. And now I'm thanking you, God and the angels, for giving me experiences that support my courage and my bravery to own that focus. Because that's who I am. Archangel Michael talks about courage. And Aries is courageous. And the courage now is to really own your power. own your power in a way that you don't have to breathe fire. Because, she could breathe fire. But you know what she would do? She'd burn down her own freaking house, because that's an ice castle, just like Elsa. So now what happens is you realize, Aries, that the child within didn't want what you were looking for in the first place. I kind of feel like this is how I want to say it. When I look at Francesca and the restriction card, and I look at Rosetta being a childlike energy, my inner child, and the forgiveness card not being about forgiveness, but rather about understanding an experience that at one point was distasteful or unpleasant for me. So my focus is on all the injustices that have happened. My focus has been on people won't let me move. My focus has been on I don't get to be me. That's the lower vibration of Aries. Now I'm going to shift that around. I'm going to turn it around and say, you know what? What I realize is I have been calling forth experiences and then going back into an old dynamic and looking for the experiences there. I'm not going to find them there. So what if I open up to a new experience? And I do that because I start to pay attention to my focus. Where have I really been looking? So this is what I started to realize. And this is how I kind of round out this whole broadcast. I realized that in most of my affirmations and in my calling forth to the universe, I was begging, pleading, asking in a lower vibration. So now I'm in a more, not thankful and grateful in an inauthentic way, but in a way that's grateful for the opportunity to have the awareness that I'm in lack, abundance. Now, thank you, Spirit, for bringing me more into abundance and into those authentic feelings and experiences that support the vibration that I not only want to have and carry forth, but that I want to share with the rest of the world. Wow, that's it. That's me. That's Teri Hunter. She's not quite sure what to make of herself today, but I'm feeling good, guys. I'm feeling like I'm starting to get the roller coaster ride that is known as my life. And as we're going up the hill or up the ramp, whatever that roller coaster is, it's a little bit slower. We see the rise. We feel kind of safe. But the real exhilaration is when we get to that top and then we go down with our arms up in the air. So put your arms up in the air. Call forth the experiences and be aware of your belief system. And as you become aware, I've experienced more lack than I've experienced abundance, then your job isn't to try to figure out how to affirm the abundance, but instead to invite it in and let spirit start to give you those experiences that support that. All right, guys, that's me, Teri Hunter. I'll be back next Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time with more messages from your angels for traversing the transits. If you'd like to book a reading with me, you can find me on Lotta's website. I'm under the reader's menu and I am available. So sending lots of love to you all. And as usual, I am peace out. See you next week.